how many seasons in a year? Can anyone chat? To get more interacting, I'm just making you to active participation. There is 4 seasons will be there. First one, there is spring will be there, summer will be there, monsoon and winter. So spring, what is the duration of spring season? That will be from March 1st to May 31st. And what is the duration of summer? That is from June 1st to August 31st. So what is spring? So we would like to talk about a little bit about spring. So what is spring? Heaps of sunshine after a cold and gloomy winter. Spring sunshine comes to make your soul smile. In the spring, seeds take root and vegetation begins to grow. The weather is warmer and often wetter. Animals wake or return from warmer climates, often with newborns. More sunny hours in a day and the night get shorter. The cutest baby animals around us, flowers everywhere, and fresh breeze will be there. So there is a perfect temperature for growing plants and vegetables and microorganisms and macroorganisms. We can observe that during this season, during spring, what will be happening? If you put one bread at your room temperature, you left it for 3 days. What will be happening? There is a formation of a fungi that is called as rhizophus. Rhizophus will be getting breeding on that bread. And dosa and idli batter, you know very well, we are taking as a breakfast. So for in this summer and spring season, what will be happening? There is a much favorable condition to grow bacteria in that, and that will get fermentation very quickly, and we will quickly get preparing of idli and dosa. What will be there in that? What is the organism will be settled in that? That is lactobacillus fermentum or streptococcus fecalis. So like this, two or more organisms will be there. So according to whatever the favorable condition of our room temperature, our atmosphere, our area, the organism will go and settle into the dosa or idli batter. So what will be happening here during spring? There is a breeding season. This is a breeding season of most animals, microorganisms. Okay. So why she is talking about all those things you are thinking. So we are what is the importance of this season? What are the precautions we have to take? So for that for get awareness, I'm talking about all those things. So during spring, whenever favorable condition of atmosphere come, there is a growth of bacteria or microorganisms will settle in that place wherever around the world. It may be that our house, any room, or in our body, our garden, everywhere it will be settle and grow. Why? Because in the world there is for a growing of organism, that is micro, macro, or animal, birds, anything according to their area of their atmosphere, that will grow. Whenever the favorable condition will come, it will grow. So for that, there is uh, summertime. During this season, what will be happening? There is some elements will be come for us. We all are human beings. So for human beings, what will be happening? What are those elements will arrive? Those things are I written only few of all those things. So but one by one, I will tell you. Food poisoning and sunburns, asthma and allergies, heat exhaustion and heat stroke, colds and flu, bug bites, conjunctivitis, chickenpox, measles, mumps and rubella, and malaria. One by one, let's talk about this. First one, food poisoning. So what is food poisoning? Why food poisoning will come? So there is when improper food preparation will do. and the cross contamination of that food, and unwashed whole foods in cooking pan, and warm weather, ripe environment for the growth of bacteria, and fail to do proper store or a refrigerator. If you are fail to put your food in refrigerator of your leftover food, then it will be a favorable condition to that bacteria growing in that food. And after, when we are feeling hungry, directly we are without heating and without doing anything process, directly we consume that, what will be happening then? Immediately our stomach illness will come. Why? Because from our system we entered one of bacteria into our stomach, and it will do that work, their work. What will be what is the natural tendency of that organism, that is improving their count inside our body. Due to that, what will be happening to us? We getting vomiting, diarrhea, headache, dysentery, fever, like this so many symptoms will come. So, and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, that is a research, that is one of the research center. According to them, what they said, there is in America 3,000 deaths will be occurring during a year. So, due to food poisoning, there may be 3,000 people are dying. So, what is the treatment for food poisoning? What we have to do? So, while we are getting that vomiting, whatever entering food, that will go. That is for restoring our regular system of our working of our regular system. Our stomach is what it will do. It will sending all the food, whatever we take, that will be forcibly uh, go sending outside. So here what will be happening? So due to that, our stomach will get upset. So continuous diarrhea will be there. Frequently visiting the washroom, and there is our body water will go, and we become very weak. So that's why what we have to do, we have to drink plenty of water, and drink hydrated fluids with plenty of electrolytes. ORS we have to consume. We have to take ORS packet in 1 liter of water. We have to take, and resting our stomach as much as we can able to stay empty, and rest yourself. We have to take rest, and antibiotics as prescribed by physician if required. If it will be going more than 20 times like that, it will go, then there is a necessary of taking saline, and antibiotics will be required. And next one, sunburns. So what is sunburns? A continuous exposure to the heat, what will be happening? We get a sunburns. So sunburns are most painful during summer conditions. So what is the cause here? So there is during summer season, we so many people, they are enjoying the atmosphere in nearly swimming pools, and near whatever the pool side will be there, they are enjoying their vacation. So what will be happening due to that? During that period, if you are not applying sunscreen lotion, if you are applying also, if you are once go and dip into the water, and again it will go wash everything, and what will be happening? Again we have to apply the sunscreen lotion, but eventually the people will forget who. Then they are thinking that who will put always, anyway one time we are putting, no, like that they are thinking. So due to that, what will be happening? There is sunburn will come. So even the people whomever, there are fairy people are black color people, means due to that there is no means there will be there the fair people who will be there, they will get so much tendency to get sunburns. Then it will be appearing on their skin. But even though for black people also equally they are having the chance of getting sunburns. So both the people has to take precaution measures while going outside. Apply the sunscreen lotion. And intense burns can damage your skin. So due to that exposure to sun, what will be happening? There is burns will become. It will forming a blisters also. Sometimes if it will be more time if you are exposing to sun, there is a painful blisters will come like this. You are looking on the screen. So there is greater risk for skin cancer, and the painful blister will not will make you to do very uncomfortable, and you cannot able to do any work. So what we have to do? So here, most sunburns go away on their own. But if it will be formation of blisters will be there, you have to go and approach your doctor and apply aloe vera gel or creams to reduce warts and symptoms. And while go outside, wear fashionable floppy hats and avoid venturing outside during hottest parts of the day. Means whenever the sun will be more at the duration at the summer season during 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. probably you should not go outside. Most probably you stay inside, stay indoors. Coming to the next element is asthma and allergies. So here asthma is a seasonal allergy. Uh, why? Because there is during spring season there is so many flowers surrounding us, and there is a pollen count will be increasing outside, and increasing level of mold growth, and increasing microorganisms, and easily get allergies. Then allergies can increase asthma attacks, and asthma conditions worsen humid conditions because humid air can trap and hold allergens for longer periods of time. And what we have to do? So best way is try to avoid triggers. Stay inside when pollen counts are high outside. Then use a dehumidifiers and air conditioner to decrease pollen count and microorganisms growth on our body. Why? Because I told you previously that there is a when favorable condition come, even in our body there is so many microorganisms surrounding us that will, if we are not taking personal hygiene properly, the growth will increase. Due to that, what will be happening? We are getting become sick, and the illnesses will come very easily. Why? Because the whatever the root will be there, that will be open, and it will go inside, either respiratory or either digestive system. So it will go inside, and it will settle, and it will implementing their count, and that will be a that will act as a foreign body in our body. So that's why we are entering into illnesses. So next one, heat exhaustion versus heat stroke. So what is heat exhaustion? When we feel overheating before heat stroke. So much heat means we feel that there is so much heat will be there, like that we are feeling. So what is heat stroke means? When the temperature will be more than 104 degrees Celsius at or 104 degree Fahrenheit, 104 degree Fahrenheit, so or higher, then it is called as heat stroke. Uh, this heat stroke is a very uh, life-threatening process. So the person will, if enter into this heat stroke, then there is probably there will be ventilator, till ventilator he will go. So during heat exhaustion, what are the symptoms we can recognize? There is confusion will be there, dizziness will be there, fainting will be there, fatigue will be there, headache will be there, muscle cramps will be there, nausea, pale skin, sweating, rapid heat, heartbeat will be there. We are feeling pale our tongue. So we feel thirsty. So these are the symptoms of heat exhaustion. So even though if you are having some other health issues also, these symptoms are most common. But we can't able to understand, is it heat exhaustion or it is something else. We can't able to understand it. So when you are feeling these symptoms, you have to get get ready for whether I get a heat stroke or not. So for that we have to take primary prevention to avoid such things. So who all are at risk? The children will be at risk, and senior citizens will be at risk, and people taking certain medications, and people with heart, respiratory, or other serious conditions, and people who are obese. They all are at risk. So there is in your room, if when where we are staying in that room, if it is not properly ventilated, so there is a stroke of there is a chances of getting heat stroke. So due to that also we are entered into heat stroke. So these all are things. So by this, when we are getting heat exhaustion only itself only, we have to take a prevention ourselves and taking plenty of water and taking oral rehydration solutions. Then and using refrigerators or air conditioners. Then it will get a uh, comfortable becoming comfortable our body. Coming to the next one, colds and flu. So there is cold is happen all year around. So there is during this season, during spring and summer season, what will be happening? There is enterovirus will be probably increasing their count in the atmosphere. So it is particularly it will cause a cold and flu. So this virus creates a cold and flu like symptoms. What are those? What are those symptoms will be there means scratchy throat and fever, headache, rash in some people will be present. So, what are the reasons? What are the reasons how it will come means spending more time in crowded places in nice weather. So where we are spending means the spring there is so many flowers, there is a fresh breeze will be there. So for that every people go out and they are enjoying their trip, are going visiting some places. For example, some people they are visiting swimming pools and public markets, gardens, exhibitions, malls. So spending much of the time in crowd, then it will be a reason to get a colds and flu very quickly. And especially, I told you some what are the who all are the people at risk, especially children and old age people, and the persons who is having chronic illnesses like hypertension, like sugar, diabetes. So these people are higher risk to get all these infections very quickly. And what we have to do to avoid all such things? So we have to do wash our hands frequently. If we are washing our hands, the chain of the infection chain will get breaking, and we are not getting that infection enter into our system. And if get symptoms worsen, approach your doctor. And for cold, we know uh, we are taking certain citrazine tablets and all we are taking. So if it is worsened, then approach your doctor. And next element is bug bite. So bug bites, what are the bugs will be there? Means mosquitoes, ticks, bees, rocks, that is bed bugs, and cockroaches, biting bugs, spiders. So these all are bugs will be increasing their count. Their means during the season the breeding will be takes place till whatever the monsoon season will be there, winter season. These all are taking rest in their respective places. After during summer and during spring season, that will be activating their works and all. They are coming into the light, means that attracting light, and it will enjoying their own time, and they are searching their food from us. So as we are getting this biting from these bugs and insects. So there is having the potential to carry illnesses such as Lyme and parasites. For example, Malarian parasite will be there, Plasmodium vivax. What will be happening? there is malaria fever will come. So ultimately the illness, the person will getting suffering for more days. So there is stages will be there, cold, hot, and the sweating stages will be there. These all are there. This much suffering will be getting. So so ticks activity highest between the months of May and July. So in between these time, they are more increasing, and it will cause diseases to us. It acts as a carrier to carrying the microorganisms. So what we have to do to avoid all such things? So wear bug spray when you perform outdoor activities, and try to burn citronella candle when you're enjoying in your home outside, and mosquito nets you should use, and door window nets, door nets and windows nets will be there. So you use it to prevent arriving of insects, and approach doctor if you get worsened symptoms like fever, severe pain, pus, rashes all over the body. So these precautions you can take care. This is about today's session. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. If any queries, please stop.
Completed, ma?
Yes, sir.
You are done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It was nice presentation, ma? So brief. I think because this summer it is very, now we have seen very rising temperatures across the nation, and a lot of people are facing this. A lot of hospitals, especially now, with doctors are seeing lots of patients with this summer ailments now. So even a lot of insects starts coming from the ground and occupying surfaces because of extreme heat. So these are very important now. Maybe we can also focus on different kinds of medications and treatments also uh, in future or upcoming sessions, along with causes and prevention, because that will also help in preventing. So very well presented. Thank you, ma, once again for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
We will move on to our next speaker. Yeah, for the second session, we have with us Amel L. Laro. She is Program Head, BSSW's Southern Philippines Agribusiness Marine and Aquatic School of Technology, Philippines. She will be presenting on reflections of international social work, practice with refugees in the US and international volunteering in Kazakhstan. We welcome you, Emmeline. Emmeline, can you unmute yourself? You can start your video and audio.
Yes, good evening. Am I allowed to share now my screen?
Yeah, you can share. You can start your video, audio, and also start your presentation.
Okay, because earlier I was not able to share it. So good evening. I really thought that the session will be tomorrow. I apologize, although I am not so late. Thank you to Professor Lisa, a friend of mine from the Philippines, who is also here in this platform. So first, allow me to thank you for inviting me in this online platform, although we do not meet in person. But I hope this will be a future fruitful sharing, I mean, and we can able to gain some perspectives from this sharing. So I was informed yesterday to have the short sharing session, although I always receive in the online platform several schedules for webinar, and I never thought to be presenting today. So anyway, this is actually an old presentation. I can say an old presentation because I did 4 presentations about this, although not only much in the Philippines, but mostly from my friends in the US. I was working there, and also some of my colleagues while I was working in Kazakhstan. Okay, so allow me to share. I think every one of us are aware of the global definition of social work, and we know that it makes our profession global. It makes us to think more wider perspectives and working with various kinds of clientele. It happens that I worked before in Kazakhstan for 1 year, working in after the Soviet Union collapse, and also in 2016 I worked in the refugees. So I don't think I need to expound more on the definition of social work, but still, given that framework, that is also where we anchored our practice, even if we are in the international kind of work. So I just want to bounce my presentation from this. So given that this is a perspective on international social work, why there are a lot of Filipinos who are working. Filipino social workers working in a global scale, but most of them are into humanitarian scheme. Not all are, I think, social workers, and I do believe this is the right time that we venture into this international social work practice, knowing that there are so many problems that require international response. So again, I will not expound more on that because my presentation is more on the reflections that I have while working on this area. So the key concepts applied while doing international social work practice, it allows us to take action to address social work education and practice in a global level. At the same time, it links between the education and international practice. Even up to now, although I did practice working in Kazakhstan and in the US for a long time, but still there are a lot of things that I try to reflect on what really transpired there, since the experience was some of the experience, especially in the former Soviet colony, still not so what we call this clear to me. I still need to think more on that. And then integration of the diverse practice is also encouraged through international. And I think with the new phenomenon on problems with COVID-19, that's why we are here using this webinar. I think even over misuse, I think daily there are webinars and Zoom fatigue. So I think that's one thing, in integration of our perspectives, and hopefully it can address the individual and collective well-being. Now, what are the challenges then for international social work practice, especially after post COVID-19? There will be changes required to social work education, most because now we are highly integrated. I think there are pros and cons that we are can able to converse. Even I am in the Philippines and most of you are in India. We are able to engage, and but there are challenges in terms of how we communicate, knowing that there are differences in our language. Although we use English, but I think in some ways still there is some gap in terms of knowledge. And then hopefully we can develop a vision for international social work practice and think of some reflection. So given that that is a framework that I am following, or I bounce my presentation tonight, I tried to look back on these experiences that I have in Kazakhstan for 1 year in a post-Soviet Union time, working with Russian, Kazakh, and some other multicultural group. Because there are also Ukrainian in Kazakhstan, Tartar, Uyghur, Mongolians, and other nationality. And also given the chance to work in Minnesota state in the U.S., which is called a refugee state in the U.S. I cater several refugees, those countries wherein U.S. engaged with in a post-war. So some of the refugees are in the U.S., mostly Vietnamese. So I try to look back on that while I will engage with you in this short talk. So just a short country profile of this country, Kazakhstan, in the middle of the world, the ninth largest country. It's independent since 1991. Presently, there are now a middle income class country. They're at far from the Philippines now. Before it used to be, Philippines is much developed than Kazakhstan, but now they're almost of the same level. I think because of the oil deposit in this country, and they're able to manage their economy. So we'll not discuss more on that country profile, but I just want to highlight the people I work with. So I work with Kazakh, 63% majority, and Russians. But since this is a former USSR country, so the Russians are dominating at that time. It's 2004 and 5. They're dominating the country's education and in language, even in the social welfare system. It is a Soviet model that they have in their social welfare system. So that is also the reason why I was able to get a short work there, because there is a concern with the NGO and the government practice. It is mostly the non-government organization which introduced social work practice there, and even now there are so many NGOs in Kazakhstan, or they called it more CSO or civil society, and they are the one who are engaged with social work practice at that time, and only the government adopted it and integrated it into the social welfare system of their government. So it's that time is really like bringing social work to Kazakhstan, because the model that they have is from the former Soviet Union. So what are the challenges there? One of the challenges is introducing social work function, given that not all are fully understood social work practice. And since I am from the Philippines, so I bring the model that I have learned from my country, although I do not know if that model is really appropriate at that time. But given that that is the model that I have learned and acquired through education, so that is also what I taught in the social welfare system where I am engaged with. At that time, because it's a post-war time, there are so many elder persons and adults, and there are many people who are engaged into alcoholism. So our work there is mostly related to that. I highlighted here there's a lack of professional training, lack of awareness of the professional identity, and also lack of professional skills among social workers there. I tried to review the literature up to the present, and still these things are still a challenge to Kazakhstan, knowing that they are still learning more about social work practice. So just a little of my background while I work there, and the highlights of my purpose there. Just a little sharing of where I work. So I engage them mostly with problem analysis and project management. We work with nurses and doctors because that time there are no social workers yet in Kazakhstan. Only after 5 years that they establish the profession and have some colleges who open courses in Kazakhstan. And then also work with various volunteers. By the way, I work in Kazakhstan through the International Volunteer Service Overseas, one of the organization which work with poor countries. I think even India, there are VSO. BSO works with fighting for poverty. So, and poverty is the primary goal of being a BSO. But in my case, I work with Association of Family Doctors and health clinics because this is where the nurses and the doctors, they're nurses and doctors, they are not like they the doctor studied for formal education, but their nurses are all considered as paraprofessionals, so they can be taught with other things and they can learn. They're the one we train on about social work practice. So a little bit background on what I did in the US. So I worked there in Minnesota State, where it is considered the home of the refugees, multicolored, or they say color, people of color. I even meet some Indian friends on there also who are immigrants. That is my work through the Community Solutions Program. Community Solutions Program is a fellowship program for global leaders working with community solutions, and we are assigned to organizations. I work with WISE, Women's Initiative for Self-Empowerment. It is a 20 years non-government organization working with refugees, but that time their need is someone to help them develop. These are the refugee girls that they work with. They only taught them leadership training and empowerment, and at that time they need somebody to help them develop case management for refugees. So after my work there, they changed the what they call this their organizational profile, and as well as the vision of their organization towards human rights lens, and using the manual, they're trying to integrate that into their organization as well. I have a chance to work with other professionals in the US too, and since in the Philippines we have experiences working with displaced people also, especially in Mindanao. There are a lot of displacement in Mindanao. It's the longest. There are longer. They considered Mindanao, where I am from, in the Philippines. It is considered as the longest atrocities. So getting experiences from those people who have talked about it in Mindanao, I try to bring it to schools also. Just try to connect this into education, because one of my advocacy in the US is to integrate the refugees into the educational system, that they will understand how to manage refugees. I try to introduce case management to refugees also in the schools in the US, in the social work schools. So because it's case management with refugees is not still existing at that time while I was in the US in 2016. I just don't know now, because their case management there, following the laws, only covers those people with mental health problems. Maybe I am too fast. I really talk so fast. So sorry. Maybe you can we can just discuss later. But I'm trying to say is that they have in the US they have a specific process of case management. It is not the same in I don't know with India, but in the Philippines we have the generalist social work practice, wherein we cover different kinds of clients. We have multiple interventions, multiple clientele to assess, but in the US it is specific. It will anchor on a particular laws, and only if there are laws that requires for case management on that person, that they will try to engage in. So immigrants and what they call this refugees don't have yet case management system for them, although there are so many NGOs working with refugees, but it is still a new model for the US. So then that is all the things I did, trying to look back to bring you into this presentation. So what did I learn from that? I think there is a practice wisdom, and as I've said, I even try to reflect even up to now. I try to get a meaning on all of this journey, connecting my actual practice to the theories and perspectives I have learned in social work, because that time when I was there, I worked there as a volunteer, and although in 2016 I'm already capable of developing the case management system, but I think that's still something new for me, because we do not work with refugees in the Philippines. We have displaced people, but not refugees. And working with refugees is different because of the concept of mistrust. And I also work with interpreters, by the way, in two countries where I work. Still, there are several interpreters that I need to work with, so it's making the things more complicated than directly working with clients. So I even want to develop a model on working with interpreters as a social worker. So that is something to learn also. And when you work with those countries, you learn to focus and specialize because there's a need for that. This reflection is coming from where I am coming from, because in the Philippines we have a generalist practice. So we do not try to have a focus on clients' problem, but when I was in Kazakhstan or in the US, if it's for alcoholism, I try to learn and understand the context of alcoholism, in especially in the Soviet time, on how the Russians view alcohol, drinking alcohol. For them it's more on socialization, it's really embedded in their culture. So it's unlike in comparing that to the Philippines, that it's a different thing, like totally different perspectives. And then working with the health system also, because in a former Soviet time, it's they rely on the health system to provide them everything is provided. And then with the collapse of Soviet Union, then they need to stand, no, and then to take care for themselves. So there is a need to look into that particular aspect. So even when I came back in the Philippines after 2 years, I study health and social science just to get more understanding of that aspect of health and social science system. And then of course understanding the context of refugee, how did the refugee came to the US, and what are the journeys that they have. In my work with refugees in Minnesota, I have learned, I think this is maybe too blunt to say, but discrimination really exists even if they live there for a long time, because some of them, they are not able to adjust to the fast life in the US, and their parents, especially their parents, it's really good for the young ones, but their parents will really want to go back to where are they coming from. And now learning about the Russia and Ukraine crisis, I am thinking of that, and some other countries affected by war, and how these refugees are managed. So I think that case management framework that I developed with WISE, maybe I can sell that to those countries to help them also, no. And but I think with the UNHCR framework, which is the UN agency which really focus on refugees, they have their own system, but it's not, it is not integrate. I mean, the system, the social work framework is not fully integrated. And then migration, of course, conflict management, case management, and human rights and gender was also part of that focusing when I worked there. And I have learned more of these things when I was there than my social work studies back home, because as I've said, we are two generalists in my country. We work as we have we our problems are also too different from that international context that I am talking about. And then cultural competence and cross-cultural communication are also important. And now I think there's a model on cultural social work practice, and one of my friend in the US, she's from Minnesota, was developing that, and I am even want to invite her to talk in a learning series which will be conducted by our college. But at that time, it's still a struggle for me, especially learning several cultural background. And even in Kazakhstan, there are Russians and Kazakh, which are two opposite culture, and I have to learn their cultural differences and similarities, and to bring that into the sessions that I conducted with them. And that is also, I have learned more about the importance of nonverbal. It is more valuable in international social work practice than the verbal language, because as I've said, we are working with interpreters, and our facial expression, our gestures matters more to the clients than the language that we are using. So especially if you are not speaking the language directly, and even though we try to learn Russian in Kazakhstan, and when I was in the US, because of too many kinds of refugees, it's really hard to learn everything. They have Karen, Kareni, and Somali, so only few language I can learn. So I really need to rely on interpreters to work with those kinds of refugees. So that is where I value the nonverbal, but only for me to reflect also that in social work practice, we do not have, and I mean in the Philippines we have counseling subjects, but there are only few emphasis on the use of nonverbal. I mean, only few nonverbal language we try to decode, but not as what I have learned in working with refugees. The second aspect of that is, of course, if it's in the U.S., life is so fast, technology is so fast. Now, I think webinar is so popular in the Philippines, but way back in 2016, webinar is overused in the US, and really people are using much technology there than here. I mean, in working with clients, so it's a digital social work practice, and also learning new language is also part of what I have tried to reflect. And I think for the implication of that to social work education is that we should learn another language aside from the language that we have. I mean, aside from English, we really need to learn, like right now, how can we respond to the needs of Ukraine or Russia if we don't learn their language, because it really matters, I mean, for us. I think in the Philippines I try to advocate that there should be another foreign language that we should learn aside from English, because it's essential in international social work practice. And then the values of flexibility, we all know that, and tolerance to another culture, not interpreting, suspending judgment, understanding more where are they coming from, because thoroughly there are a lot of things in Kazakhstan, especially in Kazakhstan, that I cannot even explain well when I was there, because there are a lot of behaviors which comes from a post-war era, no? Era means in Filipino era, no? It's a post-war country, and there are a lot of cultures that I mean, even subculture from the Russian side and Kazakh that you cannot thoroughly understand at the time. So your patience and tolerance to other culture is essential. And from there, I appreciate more that cultural diversity. I think I became a global citizen, and I try to appreciate more historical roots of each country, uh, and appreciate their struggles as well. Where are they coming from, and how they stand for their country. Even now, when a lot of people are posting about Russia versus Ukraine, I do not want to say anything much, because I understand this different culture and how difficult it is to be into war. I mean, it's a difficult decision for both countries to engage into that, and the people suffer from that decisions from those leader. And from there, from that post-war country, then I try to look into my experiences in the US, wherein these people are in the US. They have good facilities there. The refugees there, they are provided by the government. The welfare system there in the US is really good for the refugees, but still the refugees there do not want to stay in the US. They still want to go back to Vietnam, or where are they coming from, because they believe their country is better than the US. So it's really challenging to think of that, and to appreciate that even if there are good social welfare system, still these people wants to live in their own country and not in another country. So then, I think my international practice, reflect in my reflection, I have more high regard to social work profession and what social workers can do in the global scene. And only later on that we redefine social work in, I think the previous definition I have posted on the screen. We redefine social work, and and that is after my Kazakhstan work, and I'm so thankful that we redefine our scope of practice. When we became more global professionals, we are more respected, and there are only few social workers in the international humanitarian work, and it's a challenge for us to engage into that and to integrate that into our social work education, the humanitarian approach. Because I think even now in the Philippines, we still do not have much humanitarian approach, even though there are humanitarian work in the Philippines. But in the curriculum of the Philippine education, there, I don't know, in India or in Bangladesh, or some other countries, you have humanitarian, more lessons on humanitarian response. So I think with that, if we marry the two, because I also have a paper submitted to Center for Humanitarian leadership, and they asked me to rewrite my paper and to put more on the connection of social work and humanitarian practice. So I believe that with my work with international work, I have high regard for social work than my own country, because if you are in another country, it's a totally different experience, and also the different people that you work with, and the things that you can do which you are allowed to because you are from other culture. So that's the bottom of it. And then another is the value for learning new techniques and strategies from other professionals, because we have skill sharing. So that is what I also appreciated with the volunteer service overseas, that we are allowed to share. And when I was in the US, I also have a chance to work with the US social work professionals. So in the University of Minnesota, I have a friend there, and also I met some social workers there, and we are also have some sharing of experiences from my country, and also the commonalities with that in the US. And then I think that makes me more honest with what I know and what I do not know, and maintaining my professional integrity. And I try to share this value to my students, that if there's something that you do not know, you do not assume that you know, because honesty and international social work practice is essential. Because there are different in a different culture, you cannot just approach them, although you know that you have some techniques from you I have learned in the Philippines. I have some knowledge from my education in the Philippines, but this may not be applicable in that context, given that that is a different country and culture. So I need to be humble on what else I can learn, and that makes me more transdisciplinary, and also multidisciplinary in a sense, because I was able to fully listen and understand and grasp the differences of our perspectives, because we all know that the uniqueness of each individual, it's even our principles, that we have diversity and uniqueness. And so what we have learned from maybe India social work practice may not be applicable to the Philippines, or and vice versa. So there's something that we really need to learn and even unlearn. And the bottom line is, another for me, is the value of continuous self-awareness, personal reflection, reflexivity on my part, and professional growth and development. I think that is what I really get from that 360-degree experiences working in those countries. I say 360-degree because although we are trained before we came there, but the training, the theory is not the same with the practice. Because in practice, there are a lot of challenges from those people you work with, which are not even written in the books. So those things makes you more humble enough to relearn, and even to look into yourself, what values should remain. Maybe the values that I have from my culture may not be applicable with the context of Russian and Kazakh and those refugees in the US. So totally different. So I have to reflect on myself, if my these values are still applicable or not, or should I look into their own values and also start from where they are. So that makes me a global citizen, and global. I believe that there's only one planet that we shared, and it's true now. If post-COVID will tell us that we are more connected, although using technology is the barrier, but in a sense we are more connected. Just yesterday, when I was invited to talk today, it's just as easy as that. Before, it's so difficult to reach out to somebody to talk in another country. So it makes us closer in a sense, but also divided in terms of our cultural upbringing. But now, with all this technology, but by the way, I have also learned this concept when I was in Canada in 1997. I was young then, to understand that global citizenship, that through technology we are able to be more closer to one another, and makes us understand that we only have one future and one planet to protect. And as social workers as well, although we are coming from a different background, but we are only pushing the same agenda, which is social justice, human rights, and all those global perspectives. So I don't think there is much division, but I think there is much unity, that that we have if we are into to international social work practice. So that's it, and I am open for further questions. I really apologize that I lose my sense of time. I really thought it will be tomorrow. uh, so I really apologize for that. Yeah. Okay, so that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for allowing me to share in this short forum tonight. And
Thank
also
you.
thank you to Mom Lisa, who is also now in the platform for informing me. Okay. Yes, someone was raising her hand. Do we have the moderator to moderate the session?
Yeah, thank you, Emily, for the wonderful session and insights into uh, various aspects of your topic. It was very well presented. Let's take any queries from participants. Yeah, Mary, ma'am.
Uh, hi, ma'am. Your presentation was really good. It's mind blowing. Mind blowing. I learned lot of informative information. It was a new thing for me. No questions, but only appreciation. Very good speaker, you are, ma'am. I learned lot of things from you. All the best for your next session, and all the best. God bless you.
Oh, thank you very
Thanks
much,
for
ma'am.
thank you very much for coming and presenting. All the best, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, ma'am. Anyone else have any queries? You can unmute yourself, or you can put in chat box, or you can raise your hand so that we can unmute yourself if you have any difficulty in unmuting yourself.
But if you don't have questions, so maybe I will be the one to ask. So how it is in in India? Like how do you prepare for international social work practice? Like in your curriculum or education system, do you accept or exchange foreign social workers too?
We do have, I mean, it's more or less same. I mean, because we in India we have a diverse cultural factors. Like nowhere in the world you can see so much diversity, especially uh, coming to ethnic diversity, cultural diversity, geographical diversity. So we are always, I mean, exposed and to different settings. I mean, various diversities working with. So it's always like we are following them, we are practicing them. It's not much different when it comes because of the diversity. We don't feel that international social work, I mean, in that sense, is a different subject as such because the kind of diversity we deal with it definitely supports the international social work. So,
Mhm.
in that sense, we can see that we also have to deal with the migrant issues and also uh, the foreigners, especially immigrants, and a lot of illegal immigrants also those come with, and their rights has to be welfare measures and human rights aspects. These all things are there. I mean, for every country has its unique situations and to deal with these things. But we can see a lot of similarities there. I mean, across. So that is one aspect that our rich diversity always helps us and supports us in understanding different cultural aspects of international social work and understanding different cultures from various countries, as you also rightly pointed out. Every country, every has its unique culture and traditions and practices. So we need to understand them in their context so that we can practice effectively. I mean, the right kind of services are offered. That is one aspect. And coming to practice, I mean, that is one where we have very sound knowledge of these theoretical aspects and practical aspects. Like we see, we are very frequently exposed to and have been working across these immigrants and also migrants and all these population. So it is there in place.
Mhm. Yeah, we also have Indian students here. There was a time I was invited to talk with Indian students who are studying medicine, and it's more on emotional, something like managing their emotions while they are in the Philippines. So that's why when I was invited to talk, so I decided also to share because for me, like I think I also just get close with some Indian people. I mean, I try to. I was not in India physically. I have a chance to visit Sri Lanka before, and I never had a chance to visit India. So yeah, for me, like the Indians here are also like treated like Filipinos, like they became more Filipinos. And I think in terms of international social work practice, there should be Filipinos will also need to manage the immigrants who are coming to the Philippines, and because they are already part of our culture, some of them they stay here longer, and this is still a gray area for us. I mean the social welfare system here. So I'm glad that I have a chance to have that sessions with them, and they're trying to share their challenges while they are in studying in the Philippines, as coming from the Indian schools and the different system here. They're trying to adapt. So it's really something. And yeah, I my one of my friend who is a VSO visited India before and worked there for 2 years as a VSO. She was into research project in India before. I just forgot. Because of the short notice, I forgot to invite her to this forum. So I supposed to invite her to engage with this group.
This regular interaction, I mean, the exchange of information, knowledge, experiences is very much required across the countries, borders, especially context of international social work, so that we can understand how each country, every country has its own set of challenges. So, as a global perspective, we all need to learn and understand how we are dealing with these challenges across various nations. That will help us in effectively understanding how this social work practice, international social work practice, can be practiced and I mean promoted, and it has to be understood. So it's a very good thing that we are also visiting and uh, other countries and from across the world social workers are also visiting even online and offline. It's a very good exchange of knowledge that is happening even today. By joining this platform, we also gain insights from you. So these are
Thank you.
very
And
good opportunities where we can learn about international social work.
Yeah, it will be a good exchange for us. I hope I can also invite you to one of our webinars. We're trying to have webinars in a quarter, 3 sessions per each quarter. So maybe we will send you invitation later also for you to share practice of social work in India so that our students can also learn from it.
Sure, definitely. Whenever there is an opportunity, we will definitely come forward and we will share our experiences as well. Thank you for extending your invitation as well. Any other participants, if you have any queries or comments, observations, you can share.
So I think Ma'am Lisa here, she sent me a message on how I handle the challenges faced during my exposure as a volunteer. Yeah, one of my challenge there, mom, is really the weather because it's totally cold countries. They have 9 months winter, and knowing that we are from a tropical country, we do not have winter season, so that's one of the challenge. It's a negative zero. Usually we work with that kind of weather, so that's it is a reason why there are a lot of them who are drinking vodka. And even I am working with a health clinic. There's doctors and nurses, but social drinking in Kazakhstan is highly encouraged among professionals. That is the time wherein they can really talk to one another because on a regular basis they don't really talk to one another. They're grumpy in a sense because they are not like Filipinos that we greet much each other from time to time. That in Kazakhstan, they have the Russian, they adopted the post-Soviet culture that they don't trust one another that much. So that is also one thing to a challenge for me because building the trust among the participants. And if you're coming from a perspective of participatory, I don't know, in India, you're using more participatory models in your work. Because here in the Philippines, we are introducing much participatory engagement with the participants, like engaging all of them. But in Kazakhstan, that is not much welcome in the beginning because they do not like to be part of one another. I mean, they mistrust one another, Russian versus Kazakh, and even Russians among themselves or Kazakh among themselves. So there are much division, and so you really need to establish that cultural grounding among them. How to you should manage that. I think before I left the institution where I work, they told me that they only learned the concept of friendship and working with together after I work with them because there are sessions that really need to work together and like the participatory approaches we taught them. So that is only the time they appreciated these things and the importance of these things because before they do not like much to have this kind of participatory activities, consultations. They are not used to that kind of aspect because it's former Soviet Union, and so that's too much for them to first grasp and understand. So yeah, there are many other challenges, but those are things that is in my mind. Like even now with the crisis in Ukraine, in Russia, right? They Ukraine is integrated to the Russian culture for the long time, no longest time, and even we can see slight differences, but the assertion of Ukraine of their own sovereignty is different now than before. Even before, at first, when I saw Ukrainian and Russian, their faces are like the same, and I thought they are the same, but they told me that oh, I am from this country and this is really different. So it is really challenging to cultural diversity in that practice. And as I've said, there are a lot of documentation that I still need to do and to reflect from it. I was trying to write the chapters of the book about Kazakhstan. I did the 3 chapters. Still some of the chapters are missing. So this is putting things into paper. So trying to reflect. Really, thank you, Mom Lisa. I'm more thankful to you than. Okay. Filipinos laugh a lot. Do Indians really laugh a lot? I mean, we're more smiling than I don't know about the cultural differences with Indians. Okay. Are there still more questions?
Maybe participants, we have your colleagues, I think, from Philippines. They can share their observation.
Mm-hmm.
We can invite Masinsa Silvano.
Yes, you can invite her. She's an expert and she's my mentor.
Oh, nice. Ma'am, can you unmute yourself? Share your comments or observations. We'd be happy to hear to you.
Lisa. Yes, you can invite her. She's one of the remarkable social worker in the Philippines. Uh, can you unmute yourself, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I am in the academe. I am a social work educator here in the Philippines on the eastern side.
Yes, she's from the island Visayas and I'm from Mindanao because we're divided by islands. So, yeah, she's from the western
Yes, sir.
Philippines.
What was it about that you were talking? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you well.
You can switch on your video and you can share your observation, ma'am, if it's fine for you. Otherwise, it's okay.
Hindi ko kaklaro kay you're choppy at my end. My internet connection is not so stable, so I can't hear you well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you anyway for joining us and being with us. Maybe some other time we can also hear to you.
Yeah,
Another
my
time
pleasure.
network
My
problem.
pleasure, sir, for being able to attend to this session.
Any other participants, if you have any queries or observations, you can share them. Okay, there are no queries, then any last thing, ma'am, you would like to conclude before we conclude, ma'am? Amlin?
Yeah, I'm just grateful for this opportunity to engage with you for this session, and hopefully we can also invite some of you in our e-learning sessions, which we organize in the Philippines. So, thank you. There is a word in the Philippines we say, "mabuhay." It means long live. So, mabuhay to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Definitely, we will look forward in whatever way we can extend within our capacity. We will be very happy to collaborate with you. And we, on behalf of platform, also invite you and your colleagues and our fellow social workers, international fraternity from Philippines. Also, welcome you all to this platform. Whenever you get an opportunity, do let us know so that we can organize more sessions from our Philippines fraternity as well, so that we can gain more insights in social work, international social work. Once again, we invite you all to be part of our international fraternity and international webinar series. And we thank you once again on behalf of all the participants and Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute and Center for Art Sciences and Wellbeing for joining us and contributing your session on reflections of international social work practice with refugees in the US and international volunteering in Kazakhstan. Thank you, ma'am, once again for joining us.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the success. Look forward for active collaboration even in future. We'll be sharing your certificate through WhatsApp in some time. And participants, you can fill up the feedback form.
Okay,
It's
thank you so
available in the,
much.
yeah. The feedback form is available in the chat box. Kindly fill up the feedback form so that you can receive your participation certificate.
ये लगाया है ये लगाया है ये
Any query?
हाँ चेंज कर दूँ नहीं तो बोल
Sorry? Couldn't get you. Can you unmute yourself or put in chat box if it was not clear, if you had any query? Okay. You can type in chat box if you have any query. Otherwise, you can also use the feedback form wherein you can provide your comments, clarifications as well. All the participants are requested. Yes, ma'am. Kindly fill up the feedback form. We will send us. We will share your certificate. It will be provided on the webinar website. Google Drive link will be provided. Otherwise, you can just ping me on my number. I will share you my number. You can friends, kindly fill up the feedback form before you leave the webinar. It's mandatory for receiving your certificate. Dear friends, kindly fill up the feedback form. We are about to end the meeting. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Emlyn Laro. Thank you, Cecilia, Silvano, and all other participants for joining us and sharing your valuable inputs. And see you all. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.